Raw edge applique is one of my all-time favorite quilting techniques, and a great way for those of you to get started on it that have never tried before is really basic and easy on a tea towel. That's today's tutorial. Let's get started. I was gifted towels from my aunt, thank you Aunt Sherry, this year for Christmas, and I absolutely loved them, and they were these great appliques on tea towels, and I thought this would be a great project for all of us. So I want to get a head start for this coming holiday season, so I found this great panel from Moda, which has both big and small holiday characters on it, but there was something else, and I want you to listen carefully. You're going to learn some extra stuff today. One of the things I really liked about these characters on this panel was there's plenty of extra space around them so I can cut efficiently to help me with my machine quilting. Let me show you more about what I'm talking about. So what I did is I chose for my first rundown is a his and her set of tea towels, and I want to talk about, before we even get into construction, some of the things you might be thinking about as you're purchasing your supplies. So what you're looking at right here is unwashed samples. I bought the towels and I bought the fabric right out of my local quilt shop, went home and put it together, but so I would see what happened is I also washed it. So here you can see the difference between the washed and the unwashed version, and so you can see there's a little bit of fraying that will happen along the edge because it's raw edge. Part of that is controlled by what style of fusible applique product you use. I love Heat and Bond Feather Lite. It's a very, very lightweight fuse, so when I'm done, this is very, very pliable. You don't feel the fusing in it at all, especially after it's been washed. However, because it's such a lightweight, the edges could fray a little bit. So in today's video, we're using a size 70 needle and a fine cotton thread so that we're not putting any extra impact around the edges while we're machine quilting. And I'll be showing you that in a minute here at the machine. But so when I'm getting ready to cut out my applique parts, what I want to be thinking is how much reveal do I need around my image? So before we can cut out, we always want to have our Heat and Bond Lite, or Feather Lite is the one I prefer, on the back. So this is what it looks like. There's a shiny and a paper side, and you can see that the paper side was set down, and I always want to have a little bit of fabric all the way around so that I'm not pressing any of the glue from the fusible web onto my ironing board. So you're going to follow your manufacturer's instructions for your fusible, press it on the back side of your applique to be, and then hopefully you're using your wonderful new Shark Applicutter, which has got this 14mm blade, and you're just going to go ahead and you're going to cut a perimeter, and the perimeter I'm cutting is also the track that I'm going to machine quilt in. So the more efficient you are with your machine quilting, the narrower the track you can make. The least efficient you are with your machine quilting, the larger the track you want to make so that you have more wiggle room to work as you're using in your machine quilting. Okay, let me focus on what I'm doing here. Now, what I'm doing with my applicutter is I am holding it like a pen, so you can see that I can quickly cut around, leaving that reveal, and I can cut forwards, I can cut backwards, however I need to make this easy. But the reason I designed this tool was for just like this. I don't want you trying to use it around templates and things. We're just freestyle cutting with this, and you can obviously use it in your left hand. I want the blade on the inside of your body while you're working, so you might have to switch the blade to the other side. Okay, and then of course, if there's any of these little spots where don't pull on that because you might leave a thread behind, right? So just come back in and make sure you cut all the way through. And I think I had one more down here. Very easy. And the last one. Okay, now we're ready to rock and roll. I'm going to heat my iron up because I forgot to, right? And in a few minutes, I'll show you what to do with those little small pieces. Now, I've already put my tea towel in position on my ironing board. And when I say in position, what I mean is I've looked, because on the back of the tea towel, there's a cool hanging loop. So you want to make sure you have what you need there on the top. Then you're going to go ahead and take the paper side off the back of your applique. So I want to find a good spot to get started with that. And I just start to peel, and as I'm peeling, I look, and I want to see the sheen on the back of my fabric, which means the glue is bonded there. And then when I press this out, I'm not even sure if you can see it or not, but I kind of left the creases inside of the towel so that I know that I'm putting it in the center of the towel, so that way when I'm hanging it, it's folded nicely like you'd want as it hangs over your oven door, right? So I'm also going to bring up my applique just a little bit, and you can always put cool trims and different decorative fabrics across the bottom. But all we need to do for this now is we're just going to set our dry iron, and I'm going to press it down with a few second count as I go. And then we're going to just simply free motion this in place. As it cools, let's go over and talk about the machine a little bit. Now, whenever I'm doing my free motion machine stitching, I love to have my sew slip mat on the bed of my machine. And what this does, if you are not aware, is basically it's a Teflon coating, so it makes everything slide so very nicely underneath the machine there. And then I also have my Machinger's gloves, because this gives me good traction. And I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but I really want you to have this settle in. We're using a size 70 needle right now. Now that's a smaller, finer needle. We're just going to take one lap of stitching around the outside of our penguin on that cream colored fabric. So I've chosen a cream colored thread as well. So I'm not using a monofilament. I want this to really, sorry, I'm struggling getting these silly gloves on. It gets warm here in the studio, and so I've got a little bit of stick, but I want them to hold tight. There we go. Got it, we're ready. So I was starting to say about the needle, I want a fine needle because I want to be able to go ahead one lap of stitching all the way around this and secure everything and be able to take tiny little stitches so that I'm helping it prevent the fraying as well. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and by hand, I'm going to rotate my needle down one time, and I'm going to pull up on this thread so that I now have both the needle thread and the bobbin thread. We're going to take a few stitches in place, and I'm kind of in an inconspicuous area right now on my tea towel itself. And now, without even using stabilizer on the back, because we're doing straight stitching versus satin stitching, I'm going to slowly machine quilt in this area. And in a second, I'm going to cut this thread here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on. So first of all, I need to get back here, get this thread out of the way. There we go. Okay, now, as I said, that gap or the cream color fabric is my target zone. And the reason I left it there is I don't have to be perfect and stay right on the print of the penguin design or whatever design you're using. And over time, it's given me a little bit of relief, so as that fabric frays away, I still have the design. And of course, I'm showing you the most basic of samples, but you can always come in here and embellish it. You can put all kinds of fabulous creatures together. I just wanted you to get the feel of this because it's so fun and they make such great gifts. Back at where I started from, so it's as simple as that. Really, all I have to do is cut my threads. Now, let me show you on the back, as I was saying, it's a single lap around here, and I started to mention, I think when my gloves weren't fitting great, that I did not use a stabilizer, and here's why. When you're using a satin stitch, it pulls at the fiber. So a zigzag stitch, you would want to stabilize the back. A tearaway would be a great product for that. But because I'm just doing a single straight line to hold the applique down, I don't want to have to tear away at the stabilizer. And you can see that with no effort, the fabric stayed perfectly crisp so that my tea towel right now, once I clean off that little bit of thread tail there, is completely ready to be wrapped up and sent off for a fantastic gift. I think 2 is better than 1, and I think you're all awesome out there as fans watching Man Sewing. You know I love your feedback, so I want to hear from you what kind of other great gifts you're putting together this year for the holidays. We'll check you next time right here at Man Sewing. Thanks for being a Man Sewing fan. It's great to have you out there encouraging me to create fantastic new content. If you've missed any of the videos, we've got links for you here and here. And while you're checking those out, make sure you're subscribed. We don't want you to miss any of the action.